Today, I want to discuss something that appears quite simple, but is arguably one of the most vital lawn care practices you can perform: mowing. On this channel, we spend a significant amount of time talking about fertilizers, pre-emergent herbicides, fungicides, seeds, wetting agents, and soil amendments. However, the specific way you mow your lawn can directly influence almost every one of those factors. Mowing impacts weed pressure, it impacts disease pressure, it affects the development of the root system, it dictates how dense the turf becomes, it determines whether the grass can spread horizontally to fill in bare spots. Furthermore, it determines whether your lawn will successfully survive summer stress or fall apart when environmental conditions become difficult. That is truly the core point of this video. Everything we discuss, fertility, weed control, fungicides, and soil health, is completely interconnected. Your mowing program must work in total synergy with all of those elements. If even one of those pieces is out of alignment, it can throw the entire system out of balance. This is a management strategy that needs to function in a synergistic way. Every year when I was managing golf courses, I would assemble a comprehensive agronomic plan. That plan covered everything from fertility and mowing to irrigation and disease control. Everything worked together as a unified strategy. When you are truly a turf manager, that is exactly what you need to do. That is one of the primary focuses of this channel, not just providing you with products to use, but helping you evolve into a professional turf manager. It is about understanding the products, understanding the practices, and bringing them together into a complete management strategy for your specific lawn. So today we are going to go over mowing, which is the most basic but also likely the most dynamic part of that strategy because of how it affects everything else. Let's get started. Every species of grass has a specific mowing height range where it performs at its absolute best. That is the range where you achieve the best density, the best rooting, and the best overall performance. I will display a chart here so you can see these ranges. One of the most important takeaways from this is that a higher cut reduces weed pressure, and the reason for this is simple: shade. When you mow at a higher height, you are shading the soil surface. This reduces the amount of sunlight reaching weed seeds like crabgrass and goosegrass. I see this exact phenomenon in my own lawn. In my shaded backyard under the maple tree, I do not use pre-emergent herbicides for summer weeds. The lawn is naturally shaded, and I maintain a height of cut above 3 inches. Sunlight simply isn't reaching the soil surface. The same applies to this lawn here, which is a mix of ryegrass and tall fescue. I don't use pre-emergence here either because of the density of the turf and the higher height of cut. That density effectively becomes your weed control. Now let's discuss horizontal growth and how the turf fills in. Frequent mowing encourages density because it pushes the plant to grow laterally instead of just vertically. This is critical when you're trying to fill in bare areas, spread warm season grasses after sprigging, or thicken cool season turf. I witnessed this firsthand during golf course grow-ins when we were establishing 419 Bermuda grass. We would utilize flail mowers. A flail mower features a horizontal shaft with chains and small blades at the end of each chain. As the shaft rotates, the blades swing and cut the turf very tight. These are large, high-horsepower machines that aren't typically for homeowners, but they are extremely efficient for grow-in situations or utility areas where rocks or debris might damage a standard rotary mower. The reason they are used is that they allowed us to mow frequently and very low, which forced the Bermuda grass to fill in much faster by spreading horizontally. The same principle applies to a home lawn. Frequent mowing drives density and lateral growth. So the takeaway is that increasing mowing frequency and decreasing heights stimulates that horizontal growth. This does not mean you should cut it down to the nubs. When things aren't going well with the grass and it takes a long time to recover while you're looking at it every day, it can be frustrating. I've been there and done that. Don't do anything desperate. A good scenario for lower mowing heights and frequency would be in the late August or mid-September timeframe for cool season grass. If it's growing fine and everything looks good, mow it at the lower height of the chart I showed you to get it to fill in. If you have Bermuda grass in June and it's thin, hit it with some nitrogen. Speaking of fertility, you guys can check out my favorite fertilizers right here. I'll leave a QR code for the Lowe's storefront. One is the Yellow Max product, which has pre- and post-emergent herbicide, and the Green Max product is my favorite nitrogen source, the best fertilizer on the market. If you have Bermuda grass and things look good in May and June, hit it with nitrogen and lower that mowing height just a bit. Then when you start hitting summer stress, start raising it back up within that recommended area. For Bermuda, keep it between a ½ inch and 2 inches. Lower heights increase horizontal growth as long as you have the frequency, but stay within the chart. As I mentioned, I have Lowe's and Amazon storefronts. The Lowe's storefront has products I like at your local store, including some professional-grade products they carry online, but not in-store. On the Amazon storefront, I've selected products where I've used the active ingredient or feel confident in them. For example, I compared two pre-emergent products that both contain 0.27% dithiopyr and are 9.5 pounds. They are identical products from the same type of manufacturing plants, but one is on my storefront because it is $10 cheaper. Using these affiliate links doesn't cost you an extra dime, but it does support the channel. Amazon uses these programs because they want people who know what they're talking about to explain the products, which reduces returns. It's not about shenanigans, it just helps the channel and makes things easier for you. Now let's tie this directly to fertility. One thing I always try to avoid is creating lush, heavily fertilized, wet turf during hot and humid nights. This is one of the reasons I dislike relying on water-soluble fertilizers. They can create a sudden flush of growth. You get rapid top growth, especially during rainy periods, and you can easily get behind on your mowing. When that happens, you end up removing too much leaf tissue at once. You are also creating more succulent turf, which becomes a major problem if you are mowing too short or dealing with disease pressure. That is why I prefer coated products. You get a more controlled release, more consistent growth, and it integrates much better with your mowing program. Again, this is all interconnected and synergistic. Let's talk about disease pressure. Mowing too short or too tight causes more succulent growth. Even if the grass looks like it's doing well, it is putting on new leaf tissue that is immature and lacks the natural cuticular waxes needed to fight off infection. If you mow with a dull blade, you are creating a jagged edge at the leaf tip, much like an open wound. A clean cut from a sharp blade is like a scalpel, but a dull blade is like a painful paper cut. You lose water through that injury, and the longer it stays open, the weaker the turf becomes. A weak plant cannot build the structures it needs, like cuticular wax, to fight infection, and everything starts to spiral out of balance. If you put too much nitrogen down, especially quick-release water-soluble types, and it rains for 4 days, you might end up 3 or 4 days behind on mowing. Then you cut more than a third of the leaf blade, making everything worse. You must use a sharp blade and cut within the proper range. If you cut too tall outside of that range, you increase shade in the canopy and decrease air movement. This prevents dew or irrigation water from evaporating quickly, leading to a combination of moisture, humidity, and heat. Every 10-degree increase in temperature doubles biological activity. Heat plus moisture equals fungus. It is all synergistic. We've covered fungal issues, fertilizer, and mowing height altogether, because that is how a complete lawn program works. I know many creators ask you to subscribe, but I say it for a reason. I have nearly 4 decades of golf course and turfgrass management experience. I started this channel 3 years ago and keep my videos topical. I release videos on fertility, weed control, or summer stress about 2 weeks before you actually need to do them so you can time your maintenance perfectly. I love seeing the fruits of my labor, and helping you take pride in your yard is rewarding for me. Timing is everything in this business, so hitting the notifications helps you stay ahead. There is something important to understand about equipment. Reel mowers can scalp, especially on uneven lawns. They also come in different widths. The wider the reel, the more likely it is to scalp on lawns with undulations, dips, or slopes. On very flat lawns, wider reels work, but if you have any contour, a narrower unit, something like 18 to 22 inches, is usually a better choice. Units wider than 24 inches are very prone to scalping unless the surface is perfectly level. Keep that in mind before purchasing an expensive, high-maintenance mower. Regarding robot lawn mowers, I have done many reviews on this channel, usually released on Thursdays. I've looked at about 11 different brands. The Ecovacs mowers are what I would call the most reliable. You hit the button and they just work. When you first get a robot mower, there will be some quirks with your yard, like needing to add mulch or rocks to landscape beds to square things off. If you see stripes in my thumbnails, those are from the Anthbot Genie 600. I'm also looking at the Navimow 400 or 430. A key difference is that Ecovacs only goes down to 1.25 inches, while Navimow and Sunseeker go down to 3/4 of an inch or below an inch, which is better for Bermuda grass. Sunseeker has good customer support, and Ecovacs is very good. The Malva unit I tested recently is great if you like techie features and making shapes in your yard. All-wheel drive mowers have performed well in my son's yard. I have a full list of robot mower reviews on the channel. Regarding the Luba with tank tracks, it's popular, but the older model had connectors on the bottom that would get covered in grass juice. I had to use WD-40 and light sanding to keep the connection clean for charging. I believe the new model has addressed this design flaw. The Air Seeker 4-wheel drive has neat technology with a larger disc for 0 turns in a good price point. Anthbot is also well priced, while Ecovacs is pricier. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Robot mowers are great for mowing frequency. You can mow every single day, which drives that horizontal growth we talked about. You really need to mow at least 3 times a week with them to keep up with the growth so the avoidance systems don't get triggered by tall grass. Finally, regarding summer stress, do not mow your yard just because it is Saturday. Mow it because it needs it. Don't mow when it is 98 degrees at 3:30 in the afternoon. You don't want to be on the grass in that heat. Ideally, raise your mowing height 30 days before the onset of stress. Try to mow in the evening, ideally after a rain has had time to soak into the plant. On golf courses with bent grass, we would syringe the greens, a light watering in the evening to reduce the canopy temperature. This can make a big difference if timed correctly so the grass dries before sunset. It's a lot of work, but it helps. If you have questions about summer stress, check out my wedding agent video from last week. If this deep dive into the synergy of mowing and turf management has changed the way you look at your lawn, please subscribe and like this video. We are digging into the professional secrets that others try to keep buried. Start growing your future today. The next chapter of our lawn care treasury will be opening very soon.